Previously, inside the vault.
Technical analysis is a trading discipline used to identify trading opportunities by focusing on historical price patterns and stock trends. The concepts of trading support and resistance levels are undoubtedly two of the most highly discussed attributes of technical analysis. Resistance is a price level where an uptrend can be expected to pause and/or reverse due to a concentration of supply from increased selling interest. Support is a price level where a downtrend can be expected to pause and/or reverse due to a concentration of demand or interest from buyers. Once a level of support or resistance has been identified, those price levels can now serve as potential entry and exit points.
Once the support is broken, meaning the price falls below it, a good support level will then become resistance.
What's going on, family? It's your favorite hairless YouTuber back again with a brand new video. As always, before we get into it, let's kick off today with some Monday motivation. If you always do what you always did, you will always get what you always got. You're always just one decision away from a totally different life. By the end of this video, you will understand a basic but also very significant concept of technical analysis, trend lines. And if you think you know all there is to know about trend lines, I'm here to prove you wrong. Watch this video all the way through and see if I can give you a new perspective. And of course, you know I'll be throwing in an extra treat at some point in the video for sticking around with me today, so make sure you stay tuned for that. If you're new to the channel and like what you see so far, show us some love by liking the video, subscribing, and making sure notifications are turned on so you don't miss any new content. Without further ado, let's get it. So, what is a trend? A trend in the stock market is just the overall direction of the market or a stock's price. Many investors or traders look to trade in the same direction as a trend, while other traders, known as contrarians, seek to trade against the trend by identifying reversal areas. What a trend line does is simple. It identifies the stock's current trend or its direction up, down, or sideways by connecting a series of highs and lows. In addition to identifying the trend lines also act as moving support and resistance levels. Uptrends connect a series of higher lows, creating a support level for future price movements, while downtrends connect a series of lower highs, creating a resistance level for future price movement. In case you don't know what support and resistance are, be sure to check out last week's video where we break it down for you alongside a live example. Now, drawing trend lines is a very simple task. You're simply identifying the general direction the stock is moving. No matter how great or how terrible a company is, their stock price will never just go straight up or straight down, which is why most people compare investing in the stock market to a roller coaster ride because it's full of ups and downs. But for me, I prefer to compare it to the ocean because trends come in many forms. You have the tide, or the bigger picture trend typically looking back 5 years or more. The waves, the medium term trend somewhere in between 3 months to a year. And then you have the ripples, the shorter term trends, typically weekly or even intraday moves. Of course, as with everything else, the type of trader or investor you are will greatly influence which trends affect you. Ripples will affect short-term traders a lot more than they will long-term investors. And the tide will not mean as much to a short-term trader as it would to a long-term or even medium-term investor or trader. Not sure if you're investing or trading tight? Check out our investor versus trader video to clear things up for you. The link to that is above and in the description below.
Let's take a look at this chart of Visa, ticker symbol V. It's pretty easy to tell by looking at this chart of Visa that it's on an overall uptrend because each high point is higher than the one before it, and the same for the low points. To identify this uptrend with a trend line, we just connect the low points of the chart. So we'll start our line here and bring it here. Pro tip to making a good trend line on any chart, always make sure you have at least 2 to 3 touch points between the line and the chart. Now we can clearly see Visa's current trend is up because every time it makes a new low point, it's still higher than the previous low point. Let's take this a step further and see if we can identify a range for Visa's uptrend. Now, how exactly will we do that? Simple, by identifying a channel for Visa. And how do we do that? Another great question. In order to make a channel for a trend, all you have to do now is draw a trend line connecting the high points of the chart. We'll start here and bring our line here. Now you might be wondering, okay, why do we bring it here instead of maybe here or there? Well, I like to avoid cutting through the line as much as possible. I also want to maximize touch points and get the tightest channel possible without losing its integrity. And by integrity, I just mean I want trend lines that are respected by the chart. The way you can tell if a line is respected is by looking at how many times the stock's chart actually bounces off of that line. If I brought the line here, you can see that the actual stock chart blows through this line way more than it actually bounces off or respects it. And if I brought the line here, you can see that we don't have enough touch point to make this a good trend line. That's the key to good trend lines. You want the stock chart to bounce off your trend lines considerably more than they break above or fall below. So with our channel drawn, we have good reason now to believe that if Visa ever fell to the bottom of the channel, it will reverse and bounce up. And if it ever rose to the top of the channel, we could expect it to bounce off of it and reverse down. We're currently looking at the 5-year chart for Visa, or its tide. Let's take a closer look at the trends within the trend, or the waves within the tide. We'll do that by looking at the 3-month chart. Now, in this 3-month chart, you can see multiple trends. We could draw a trend line from here to here, identifying an uptrend. Could you have a low point higher than a low point, higher than a low point, higher than a low point? Remember, uptrends connect the low points because it acts as support for the chart. When the chart comes back down to this line, it will support it and bounce it back up. Once this line is broken, a new trend will start. The opposite of an uptrend is a downtrend. For a downtrend, we'll connect the high points, creating a resistance for the chart. So we'll go to the most recent high, which I'll say is about here, and we'll just bring it down, connecting the high points, which I'll say will be about here. We have 2 solid rejections here. And then we can see when the line finally breaks here, it uses it as resistance and then became support for this nice move up. Same thing when this line is broken, it becomes a new trend. When this downtrend line is broken, a new uptrend is likely to start. It's still rather early in this trend, but we can already see that our new swing low point is already higher than our previous low point. So what we could do is start a line here and just use it to track the chart for when it comes back down to this line, we can see if it'll respect it or fall through it and create a new trend. My money's on this respecting it, but only time will tell. Now, just as we saw with the 3-month chart, you can see this 5-day chart has multiple trends. The first one you notice is this downtrend here. You have a high point that continues to get lower. So I start my trend line here and bring the line down, connecting the high points. It'll be about there. I have a touch point, touch point, touch point, and a touch point here. It broke out a little bit here, but it was short-lived before coming down and using this as resistance again. Once it officially breaks, remember we start a new trend. So now we'll look for recent low to find the uptrend in this chart. We can start with this low point here and bring the line about there. We have 3 touch points here. And even when it broke it, it used this as a resistance point. Remember, good lines are respected on both ends, which we talked about in our last video. It's respected as support here and also as resistance here. Now, this line was still broken in this area. So now we'll take the high point, start our line, and connect the dots. I put that line there, solid touch point, comes back up. We have resistance. When it comes back in this area, it starts to use it as both resistance and support before taking off here. We can start with this low point because it's a strong pivot point. Start our trend line for this new trend here, and again, connect the dots. Now, it's still fairly early for this trend, and we don't have any more strong pivots like this. So we'll have to let the chart tell us what it wants to do with this line. But we'll leave it here just to see if it'll continue to respect it. Now, let's zoom back out to the 5-year chart to see how it all looks together. Seems pretty crazy, right? When we were looking at the 3-month and the 5-day charts, they didn't seem as insignificant as they do when you're looking at the grand scheme of things. This is how a long-term investor views the market. They don't worry much about what's happening here. They're worried about what's happening here. As long as this is an uptrend, they are going to make profit. For medium-term investors, we're looking to catch maybe from here to here or even here to there. And for the short-term investors, they're looking at the ripples. You can barely even see it on this chart. They're trying to catch a move from here to here, and then from here to here, and then from here to here. That's the difference. Now, typically this chart is going to look a lot crazier with a lot more lines. But again, we're looking at the basic version of the chart just so we can get a clear understanding of these concepts. I prefer to use a color code system for my lines based on whether they're trend lines for the tide, the waves, or the ripples. I like to make the larger trends on the tide the color white, the trends in the waves the color purple, and the smaller trends in the ripples the color blue. The colors are completely up to you. The important part is that you have a system so the lines don't look like scribble scrabble all over your screen.
Yep, it's about that time. Full disclosure, we inside the vault trade options and invest in shares. So unless otherwise specified, any trades or stocks we alert on the channel are options plays. We suggest that you take the time to learn what options are and practice trading them before participating in any options trading. We break down options in depth in our stocks and options series on the channel. So be sure to check out those if you want to learn more about stocks and options trading. If you would like all of our weekly and monthly stock alerts, along with full detailed insight behind each alert, click the link below to become a VIP member today. Now, for our stocks to buy this week. The first stock is Peloton Interactive, ticker symbol PTON. According to our analysis, Peloton looks ready for a reversal upward. We will be entering call positions with October 29th expirations or later. Next up is Beyond Meat, ticker symbol BYND. Beyond is within our target price that we discussed last week, so we will be entering call positions with October 29th expirations or later. As always, do your own due diligence with every investment to make sure it fits your criteria, and invest or trade responsibly. That'll do it for today's video. Just remember, don't be afraid to fail, because it is in the darkness where we learn to appreciate the light. No battle is won without a fight. Failure should only change the strategy, never the goal. If you've enjoyed this video and want us to make more videos more often, you know what to do. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, comment below your thoughts and questions to let us know how we can continue to improve the channel. This channel and all of its content is made for you. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.